SCMAS meeting. I know it's been quite some time since we've had a meeting. We were hoping, this would get past us. At least that's what we were told. It was supposed to just go away when the summer hit. But it didn't. So here we are doing a Zoom meeting. And, I really apologize that we didn't do this sooner. But, yeah, motivation. But we're motivated now. So we're going to get through this. Our speaker today, we got Gary Jones from API. We got wind that they had a new testing device out, and our previous speaker that was planned had to cancel due to another engagement. So Gary stepped up and going to introduce us to this new testing device, which could be revolutionary for us in the hobby, especially, I think, reef keepers, because of how many parameters it tests. So I think at this time, also, I know some of you guys may not be SCMAS members. If you care to join SCMAS and support us, just know that we are the originators of Reefapalooza. So that's probably what we're most famous for. Membership for our club is $30 per calendar year. That gets you access to Reefapalooza California, because that's the one that we run. It also gets you. So I'm not 100% sure we're going to do a Christmas party this year, just simply because of the circumstances. It just doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So but normally it would help you qualify to come to the Christmas party, and also any field trips, which we're not doing any field trips this year either. So but under normal circumstances, those are the types of things we do, and we'd love to have your support. I don't think anybody pays that $30 and doesn't get that $30 out of the club, for sure. Usually when we have our regular meetings, we have some fantastic raffles, and our Christmas party is insane. So welcome you all, no matter where you are across the country, because we have had out-of-state members who have actually participated in our club before. So it's definitely possible. And I think, with the technology, with Zoom and things like this, we'll be able to, even when we're having our live meetings, maybe be more inclusive by bringing people on with Zoom. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Gary. Gary, you got an interesting device there, so why don't you go ahead and tell us all about it?
Okay. Well, thank you, guys. Just been with API now for 26 years, so I've been around a little bit in the company. And as those of you know us and know our products, testing's always been a big thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit today, tell you who we are. You may not know some of the things that we actually do. Talk about Aquaspin Advise and what Aquaspin Advise is about, and then we'll talk about Aquaspin, the testing device. So we really haven't talked about this publicly. We started selling it openly to a few retailers about 6 or 8 weeks ago. We've had it in the marketplace at select beta stores for about 2 years, and a few service companies for a few years. It's not something that we have publicly announced. We've kind of kept it under wraps and quite excited about it. So we'll talk a little more about it. But when you think of API and you think of Mars, I just want you to understand that, Mars is the world's leading pet food company, pet company. And when we talk about pets at Mars, there's 5 companion animals: bird, cat, dog, fish, and horse. And of course, Mars Fishcare, the API brand, also the Aquarian brand in the UK, is exclusively fish. We have 3 research facilities, one in the UK, which is Waltham. Waltham's an amazing facility. There's about 200 plus associates that work on that site every day, and it's strictly research. Everything we do goes public. Now, only a small part of that's fish, but we do have designated people for fish run by Dr. Donna Snellgrove, and we do a lot of research there. So it's a nice place. It's a fun place. It's nestled about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of London. And again, that's one of our research facilities. We did some of the work on the stress coat there. We've developed ways to measure stress in fish, measure cortisol in fish. We've done a lot of firsts there, a lot of monosodium phosphates for food and grow out for clownfish in Indonesia. We do a lot of coral restoration work. We also have an innovation center in Tennessee, and we also have a laboratory here in Chalfont, Pennsylvania. Chalfont's where I work, and that's our production and global office for Fishcare. We talk about a passion for pets. We consider ourselves a pet-first company. Everything we do in our world is to make a better underwater world, and we'll talk about what that means. We even do have pets at work, so we have fish tanks, of course. We bring pets to work. It's kind of a fun place to work. If you walk into any Mars office, you'll see dogs and cats running around, primarily dogs. So for us, it's about bringing our products out to bring the good in them. We know that keeping pets is a good thing for people. We have what we call SLIC, our Consumer Insights Center, and you understand why consumer insights are so important and how consumer insights drove what we did for the Aquaspin. We do that on a global scale. So when we look at consumers, remember, we're not just talking US or Canada, we're talking Australia, UK, Asia Pacific, et cetera. And then the other thing we do with consumer insights, and everything we do is insight driven, whether it's from science or consumers. We certainly participate in STEM programs. And you may not know this, but Mars is the world's largest coral reef rehabilitator of anybody. We've done more hectares and more acres of reestablishing coral reefs than anybody else. Exciting, most of the work's been in the Coral Triangle, and it's kind of cool. I got to go there. So, we have in Tacalar, and just south of Macassar, in Tacalar, we have a research center there, which is nothing but for conservation in the coral reefs. We're off of Mexico, we're in Indonesia, and this year we started our program in the Great Barrier Reef, working with Cook University. So a lot of fun there, a lot of excitement, and perhaps another time we could do a presentation on what we do with coral reefs and how so much of the fragging you do, so much of the work coming from reef tanks, from fish tanks, has driven what we do to save the coral reefs and what we do to help stimulate that. You got to realize I go back to MACNA when it started up in Toronto, and then down to Ohio, then over to New Jersey. I used to be on the board for MACNA so many years ago. And to tell you how great, back then we thought growing Aptasia was a good thing. So, we've learned a lot in reefs, and that has really generated. We talk about what we do. We do an awful lot of sustainability work, not only with the coral reefs, but the very products and things that we do. So it's not just the materials or the labels or making sure our corrugated comes from wind-driven energy instead of fossil fuel, the water usage cut down. Our goal is to be sustainable in a generation of Mars across all factories and sourcing our materials, et cetera. So sustainability is a big, big part of what we do. And if we're looking at product renovation or what we're doing, we're always looking for better ways to not leave a footprint on Earth. And we do that not only with the materials, but the sourcing of the materials as well. So the people that will produce our products or the raw materials we get, we go all the way back and make sure that we're doing circular packaging or circular materials. We call it cradle to grave or cradle to cradle. So when you start with a raw material, it goes into your product, what happens to it, how much availability is it, what's it doing to the environment, et cetera. And that's where the coral reef restoration work started. It started with cocoa farmers needing better proteins. And why were proteins limiting? Lack of fishing. Why lack of fishing? Destruction of reefs. So it's all circular. And when we talk about sustainable in a generation at Mars, we're talking about the planet, the people, as well as the materials. So we really are doing a full circle. But today we're going to talk about Aquaspin and Aquaspin Advise. So Aquaspin Advise is something that's on the API Fishcare website. You guys can use it anytime. If you go in there and you go to apifishcare.com and you'll see Aquaspin Advise, punch it up. You can put the profiles in for your tanks. You can put as many tanks as you want in there. I have some universities that must list 50, 100, whatever number of tanks they have. You can take pictures of your tanks and drop them in. It's your profile. And then if you select your profile, whether it's a reef tank or whether it's a fish only or a Fowler tank, whether it's a planted aquarium, an Amazonian tank, African cichlids, goldfish, community, planted tank, pond, koi, or water garden, put your parameters in. Then when you have a question or you punch in your water chemistry into the Aquaspin Advise, it'll tell you if you're in line for that type of tank and give you all kinds of information. It really is a neat little piece. So when you go to the website, you'll see that little lower right Aquaspin Advise. And if you punch on that, you'll be able to sign up, get your own account. And this is just an example, but you could have as many tanks as there as you want. You could drop pictures in there. And I just did this, so I got static from my, one of our salespeople today. Do you really have that many starfish? Where is that ugly tank in the salt reef? Well, that happens to be one of the tanks that has a couple bang guys and a bunch of clownfish and whatever sitting in the reef room, in our fish room. That is, you know, you can punch systems, you can do freshwater, etc. So you literally can add as many tanks as you want, and you can track the history of your tanks, and it's your profile. You manage your tanks. We don't. And it's free, absolutely free for you to set up whatever you want to do. So if you haven't looked at Aquaspin Advise, it really is a nice little piece. It's quite extensive. There's a lot of information in it, and you can really do a lot with it. So the Aquaspin itself is brand new. It is something that was developed for in-store testing, and it will simplify the way of testing. There's no question about it. And when it comes to testing, whether it's saltwater with calcium, magnesium, we know how long it takes. You know what it takes to test magnesium. You know how many steps are involved. Obviously, pH is simple. If you're dealing in calibration of meters, you know you got to change your solutions. You know you have to calibrate things monthly or thereof for certain parameters. And our pH meters in our lab are calibrated every single day. There are dip strips, there's liquids, there's 1,000 ways to test, and we certainly know them. The platform for the Aquaspin goes back to 2003. 2003, Lamont released this device for the pool industry, and it's a very popular piece globally for the pool industry. I've worked with Lamont. I did my master's thesis back in the late 70s with Lamont when I had 108 saltwater aquariums running, and I was doing algae scrubbers, mostly with the Smithsonian, things this. Those are my master's thesis. So I go way back with Lamont. So when I saw the platform, and we noticed the platform, we also knew that they had no development for fresh or saltwater testing. And we contacted them and worked with them to develop the discs to meet the needs of the saltwater and freshwater needs for the industry. So that's where we started, and I'll talk a little bit about it. So we talk about the industry. When you think of fish keeping is almost as popular as cats. It's not as popular as dogs. And the key thing here is if you look at 67% of people are interested in fish. However, 50% of the people don't own fish today, but they did at one time. About 33% never owned an aquarium or a pond in that light. So today, the marketplace for fish is about 17% of homes. So how can we help the hobbyists stay in the hobby to drive them further to experience the hobby? We know that if people keep fish tanks, we know that if people keep reef tanks, we know that if people visit public aquariums, they'll have a better appreciation for the environment, and they'll make more sound decisions for the environment because of having home aquariums. We also know that if people have pets, they care for other people better. So there's a lot going on, but looking at fish, and we say, what are people doing? We know today that 17% own fish. 50% used to own fish. Of the people that own fish, 95% own fresh water. Only 2% of the hobby is salt. Now, I know you're a marine club, and I know I love reefs. So I get excited about reefs. But when you think about the hobby and where the development is and where the needs are to educate people, the majority of people start in freshwater and stay in freshwater. And when we look at saltwater itself, it is an important part of the hobby. There's no underestimating that. But when we developed this, we developed it for fresh and saltwater for the reasons that we show. And if we can educate those 50% of the people and keep them in the hobby, we're going to have a better industry for keeping aquariums, and we're going to be able to drive more people from freshwater to saltwater. So when you look at how fast people drop out of the hobby, that's an amazing statistic. 28% of the people get an aquarium and get out of it in the first year. That is an unbelievable number of people that start something and leave. And they leave because of fish loss, or they leave because of algae, or they leave because they don't understand things. And they leave because of misinformation. And they don't understand testing. And testing is the key to knowing if your aquarium is balanced, to know and eliminate problems ahead of time. So in the first 6 months, 31% leave. In that last 6 months, you can see that 62% of the people out of those are going to leave. So if we can capture a way to get the information, i.e. water quality, and help that hobbyist solve their problems, they're going to stay in the hobby. And that's where the Aquaspin started. The Aquaspin started, how can we help stores to test water quicker, faster, to satisfy the needs of those customers. So this information that, testing water is not something many people do is true. As a reef hobbyist, we know we have to test calcium, magnesium, and carbon hardness just to help our corals grow. We look at phosphate and nitrate. I think we get too sensitive on nitrates. I mean, I run a beautiful reef tank at one of the universities here in Pennsylvania, and I purposely keep nitrates in the hundreds. I have a tank up there at 1,100 nitrates, and corals grow nicely. So I kind of proved to students through science some of the misnomers that, I don't want to see nitrates get up into the hundreds, but I keep one there just to show. But testing water is essential. We know that. And when people have problems and people look at things, where do they go? They look for a pet shop mostly that's convenient to their home. And then they look for pet shops that have, obviously, the products they need and knowledgeable staff. And, animals, obviously, in our case, we're looking for corals and things. And then where do they go for help? Well, they always look for the store employees for help. And we know through research, we know through surveys, on Saturday mornings, if you take a water sample into many pet shops, especially saltwater, and you ask them to test, many stores are too busy. And some of the stores we worked with would actually not test water or couldn't test much water on a Saturday morning or Sunday because they're just too busy. And when you're testing for salt water, it can take 30, 40 minutes to do a test if you're doing calcium, magnesium, carbon hardness at least. And you're pretty much concentrated one employee just doing the test, working with one customer. So that's where we started. And we know that specialty stores are where people go. We know that specialty stores that are aquatic need to test water. So when we started working and looking at the store themselves, The part that they give customer service to is exactly what I just talked about, coaching, how to help them, troubleshooting their problems, and water testing. But if you look at what the store employee has to do throughout the day or throughout the week, sure, they have to order and receive goods, they have to price up and stock things, they have to market and promote the store, they have to acclimate the fish that come in, and of course, if necessary, medicate, feed. These are daily activities. And of course, they have to test their systems, do water changes, tank clean. All that time takes time away from customer service. So for the Aquaspin, what we looked at is A, what parameters can we do colorimetrically? And then B, how can we be more efficient with our time management so that those store employees can now educate and coach the fish keepers to be successful? And that's what our whole program started with. How can we simplify store testing? We are #1 in test kits. We are the world's leader in water testing. Nobody sells more test kits than API. And that's fresh and saltwater, reef or pond. We sell more test kits hand down than anybody else. And we do dip strips and we do liquid and we do it. So people are saying, well, if you come out with the Aquaspin, you're going to degrade your water testing. Our goal is not worried about the product itself. Our goal is to keep people successful. And that's what we were doing. So if we can, A, eliminate certain human errors in water in testing, they put the dip strip in, they shake it off, or they don't count the drops right, or they don't hold the water bottle right. One of the biggest problems is when you're holding a bottle of water for testing, it's to hold it completely upside down so the tip drops evenly. Many people hold the bottle on the side. You don't get a full drop. That, again, is an improper size drop. The other thing is when you're mixing reagents or shaking the bottle, calcium is a prime example, nitrate especially, you have to shake that second nitrate bottle extensively to get the zinc oxide mixed into solution. We could have 2 liquids in a powder, and then that small little bit of zinc oxide, if you don't measure that spoon just properly, you can get a bad nitrate reading. So we know that uneven dropper size for mixing. And then if a development time is 5 minutes, you want to read it at 5 minutes. If you read it at 4 minutes and 30 seconds or 5 minutes and 30 seconds, that color is not where it should be. So the tracking of the time will cause inaccuracy. And of course, worst of all is human error. And this is where the guys really screw up, because once you start hitting in your 50s, you start falling apart. Your eyes aren't as good. More guys are colorblind, or at least colorblind in certain shades, they don't even know it. And inaccurate colors can come from the lighting you're in, and you are trying to compare colors to a chart. And if you're looking at nitrate and you're between 20 and 40, you know they're red. It's almost impossible to read. You start getting in pH and you start getting the upper ranges of pH, it's also hard to differentiate. So as we look at this, we know human error is a big problem. So the Aquaspin itself does a couple things. A, it eliminates all that human error problem. It allows anybody that's done the Aquaspin Advise, they can historically track all their testing. They can go to any pet shop that has a Aquaspin, or anytime they punch into the Aquaspin, their data will be automatically loaded into their profile. Now, only they can see it. I can't see it, others can't see it. It is under that managed profile for that person. It'll also tell them if something's off. Now, many of the people in this club probably know the profiles of their tanks, know if it's off, know if the magnesium drops to 400 or 350, calcium drops to 400 or 3, you're in trouble. You got to add more calcium. Know if the magnesium drops, when to add it. Know if the KH is down at 120 or below, you're going to start buffing it back up. So your corals, but the diagnosis is something that many people do not know, and Aquaspin Advise provides that as well. And then also in Aquaspin Advise, you can set up any reminder you want. Water changes, protein skimming, whatever cycle you want, you can set your own things there. So the Aquaspin Advise, there's two discs. There's a freshwater disc and a saltwater disc. The freshwater disc does 7 parameters and the saltwater disc does 8 parameters. Does those in 2 minutes. So we know that if I do ammonia or nitrite, I got to wait 5 minutes for that development time. Obviously, pH is direct. Nitrate's also a 5-minute development time. Phosphate's normally 3 minutes. And if I get into magnesium or carbon hardness, calcium, or general hardness, they're all titration tests. So we have to count drops or do certain activities. So to get these answers in 2 minutes is astronomical change. It's a step change in testing. And it saves time. And think about it in store, which is what it was developed for. It provides more time for that store employee to spend with a customer. And many customers don't want to wait 30 or 40 minutes for an answer for their store test. And they'll get frustrated. So we did it, and because it's computerized, and we'll talk about that in a minute, it can do things that our eyes can't. So nitrate colors, phosphate colors, they all start to develop during those 2 minutes, but they're too faint for our eyes to pick up, but not for the computer to pick up. So when you talk about what parameters, and we've set these levels as to what they can measure for. So our ammonia test kit goes from 0 to 8. I tightened it here. We don't need to go to 8. We know if we're at 4 parts per million, we're in trouble, freshwater or saltwater. You'll also see I tightened the nitrite down 0 to 2. So it'll read higher, but I don't calibrate out there. So once I start getting above 2 on nitrite, it'll still give you a number, but it's outside the range. You know, if you're 2 or higher, you're going to make a change. On freshwater, I went 0 to 300 on nitrate, mainly because of African cichlid tanks get up there. Again, it'll read higher. To be more precise and lower numbers on saltwater, I kept it 0 to 60. And you can see the levels and where they are, and it'll read these levels. So people often ask, well, you know, what's the accuracy? What's the number? So I'll show you some charts. So here is one particular aquarium. By the way, Lamar is a lobster. So Lamar the lobster is in a reef tank. So we call it the Lamar tank. But that's from university. So that tank was tested 10 times. And you can see the variations in testing, how tight the tolerances are, what the standard deviations are in testing for each of the parameters. So when you say how accurate it is, what's the precision? How tight does it keep it? You can look at what you're reading and you can see the levels. Here's a front reef tank. Again, you can see the different levels. You can see the tight tolerances. 10 different tests. You can see the variation from test to test. And you can see the range, the mean, as well as the standard deviation. So it is very precise. It gives consistent results. Now, if you look at magnesium, calcium, or carbon hardness in salt water, this is a colorimetric test. Titration, you can get tighter on, but you're definitely going to be able to make decisions here as to what you need to do. As far as pH, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and phosphate, you're going to do much better with the Aquaspin than you are colorimetrically with any of the liquid kits or units out there today. So the Aquaspin itself, when you talk about the retail page, this is what the retailer would see, and they could punch in the consumers, if they have an account on Aquaspin Advise, they punch in their email, hit find tanks, and all the tanks they've listed will come up, and they can just punch the tank. If they're not a registered account, they certainly can enter their email account and select the type of tank they have. tropical community, reef tank, salt fish only, like a Fowler tank, a pond, water garden, or koi pond, etc. And it'll register what that one is. So the independent store can either A, punch in the account if they have already gone on Aquaspin Advise and set it up, or B, just register as a new customer. Once they do that and they hit find tanks, they'll be able to see those tanks that are listed, whatever you would list. And then you would hit run test, and you would select fresh or saltwater disc, or what this number would be. And then the disc itself. So to give you a reference size, if you see my face, that's the size of the disc. It's a clear disc, and there's a little fill hole there that we fill with a 3 mm syringe. Now, understanding that our glass test tube, the API test tube, takes 5 mils of water to do one test. I can do all the tests in salt water: pH, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, phosphate, KH, calcium, magnesium, with 3 mils of water. The disc itself is filled with water, and around the disc itself is different chemistry. The ammonia test is a salicylate-based test, just like every ammonia test kit on the market today, in the fact that it runs off the same standard methods. The chemistry itself for each disc is unique. The disc also has a blank spot. That blank spot fills with tank water, and if you have a tint to your water, or you have a pond that's green pea soup, the computer in the Aquaspin counters against that so that you can read the proper color in the computer. We don't do that today with liquid kits. You don't have an auto blanking countering for any tints in the water. The Aquaspin does that. So in that way, it's even more accurate than what we're doing with anything coming to titration or colorimetric comparison with color charts. Also in the disc itself, I don't know if you can hear it right now, those are ball bearings. So once it spins the water around the disc, inside the disc are ball bearings. So there's a magnetic discharge in the Aquaspin that actually drives those ball bearings up and down to mix the chemicals. That's like you shaking the test tube. That was a key game changer to be able to bring this into the 2-minute time frame. Without that, we'd have to wait for chemistry to dissolve. And then today we have 6 photometers registered in the Aquaspin. We started with 3 and went to 4. Today there's 6. So as this thing spins, it's read over and over and over during that 2-minute period. So each cell is read over 1,000 times, 2,000 times in a 2-minute period, picking up that color, the change, the change, the change. And then at 2 minutes, it's finished and everything's logged. So an awful lot's gone into this. And you can see, if you look on the far right, that's a disc that was run. And you kind of see, yeah, they're kind of similar to the colors you're used to seeing, but they're much fainter and the computer can pick them up. Once after that 2-minute time frame is done, all the parameters are then put into a display that gives you what your levels were. And it tells you if things are in check or out of check. It tells you, what's your calcium level, what's your magnesium level, what's your pH, ammonia, nitrite, etc. And if something's out of spec, it'll tell you KH is low. And if you click on the view full recommendations, you will have all kinds of information about carbonate hardness. So depending on what you're looking at, if you need to make a correction or something, you can always hit view full recommendations, and it gives you all the historical needs you'll have. If it's ammonia, it'll talk about why ammonia is toxic and how enhancing your bacteria, cleaning up your bed. Obviously, KH talks about carbon hardness with corals, as well as buffering pH. So the Aquaspin Advise, this information, this is a longer sheet that is emailed to each and every customer. So they can see it in store and get immediate results. They can go home, see it again. And then sent to the home, it would say, hello, whatever the customer's name is. Thank you for testing, in this case, this is a freshwater, but thank you for testing whatever type of aquarium you have, African cichlid, freshwater, reef aquarium, and in that case, it would have the store's name. So the store gets a personal email sent from them directly to the customer. So again, it's another touch point. It also provides recommendations and points to the consumer, to the hobbyist, how to correct their aquarium. So as we look at this and we say, okay, that's great. What else can I do with it? Well, the nice part about it is you have the history. I do believe in my heart of hearts that the biggest problem in people not taking care of their, or having problems in their aquarium, is freshwater especially, has more to do with KH than it does anything else, which causes instability. And we don't look enough at it. Also, because it can do it in 2 minutes, any single pet shop, any single specialty store can now satisfy their customers' needs in 2 minutes, get the answers they need to make corrections or make suggestions for corrections, and satisfy that hobbyist. And if we can keep hobbyists, again, with the right information, successful, they're going to stay in the hobby. So as we look at this, this was done to make testing in-store easier, providing the answers to the hobbyist, making sure that what they need is what they get. So that's it in a nutshell. Now this is the machine, and if I were to fill a disc, this is just tap water, but all I did was fill a syringe. Hard to show this on Zoom. I was going to say Skype, but it's the very disc you just saw, and syringe goes in a little hole, and all I'm going to do is I'm just filling it with 3 mils of water. And now I have my sample. Goes in the machine. And I'll see if I can do this without screwing it up too bad. On top of, again, disc in the machine, then it gets a black cover. And the black cover has a series of holes in it, so the meter knows what it's reading and where. Close it. And then I would go to, okay, we're going to see if I can do this. And Zoom is not letting me take control of what I want to do. So I'll do it a different way. So on the machine, I have selecting a disc, in this case, fresh water. And then I just hit tap. And you can hear it spinning, and the disc is now spinning and running. So it is that simple to do a test. And in 2 minutes time, you'll be able to see the screen for a freshwater test. So it's really that simple. So what questions do you have for me? Questions, comments?
Hey guys, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Nettie, you got your hand raised. Let's go. Is that Cody? There you go, Cody.
Yeah, this is my wife's computer. I'm technologically I'm challenged.
Join the crowd.
But I got a question. So standard deviation, my limited understanding, so you have an average and then the deviation is how far away the number is. So I guess what is, in regards to alkalinity, what is a standard deviation of 4.4? Is that if your alkalinity, say, is at 8, could it be 4 above or 4 below DKH, or is that
So
a
if you look at
smaller number?
alkalinity,
Is what I'm asking.
the range of standard deviation, so if you look at alkalinity, the range was 10. So a 3.4 standard deviation gave you a range of 10. So half a degree
Okay.
in this particular one. 13, so still half a degree. So little, almost half a degree.
So not much.
Not much at all in that respect. Now, if you're looking at, again, carbon hardness, alkalinity, calcium or magnesium, understand that you will have greater accuracy, less deviation from titration testing than you will this, which is colorimetric testing.
Okay.
So the difference is that if I do a magnesium test, it's going to take me a while. And by the way, this is what really can't see it very well with my screen, but you can see the limits there on the test itself. So while we were talking, it's done. But yeah, in reference to titration, general hardness in freshwater, alkalinity, carbon hardness, which we classify as the same. Technically, they're different, but they're pretty damn close. For saltwater, magnesium, fresh saltwater only testing. Those are all titration tests. We've devised a way to do it colorimetrically, and it's tight. It's very tight, but it's going to be more accurate with your titration testing, but you're going to it takes me 20, 30 minutes doing magnesium. You know, in 2 minutes time, I can't even get my test kits out of the boxes. And here I can get all these tests done in 2 minutes. So the speed is where it's at. And remember, it was designed for in-store testing for retailers. And about a year and a half ago, I took this down to the older machine before the rubber handles, down to a reef club in Baltimore, which is just south of here. And I know plant aquariums and reef hobbyists and those into their ponds, they want this thing. We know that, but we have to crawl before we run. So right now we've opened it up to the stores for in-store testing, and we're not opening it up to hobbyists right now for just trying to keep control of getting it out there and things of that point.
Thank you.
It's absolutely fabulous piece.
Yeah, we have a
Were you in the middle of asking a question there, Cody?
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that there is a local store in our area that a lot of our club members frequent. It's Amazing Aquarium and Reefs. Greg can probably give you, or Ben can give you his info. I'm sure he'd be interested in this. I'd love to try it out, bring my water to him and see how it works, but I appreciate it.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, the website, apifishcare.com, certainly is our website, and Aquaspin advises there. And if you want more information of any kind or information of anything, just, please hit us there and hit the contact. And, if it's obviously retailer or wholesaler or hobbyist, whatever the case may be, on any of our bottles, we have a 1-800 number. And tech service people are absolutely phenomenal. You can count most of the calls. Both of them are degreed in degreed in animal sciences. Amy's worked retail stores. Callie is not, but Callie's a phenomenal hobbyist, president of Bucks County Aquarium Society. So we're all fish nerds through and through. It's we take that terminology in a good thing. I have to tell you a funny story. A number of years back, I was at a major customer back in the day of Aquarium Pharmaceuticals, the original name of the company before we changed over to Mars Fishcare. And we're in this major customer, and we're with the president of the company and some board people, and they're introducing the salesman. The owner of the company's there, and the owner of the company looks at me and he goes, "And this is Gary." And Gary's our resident fish nerd. Well, the owner of this company got all upset on my behalf, like it was an insult. And well, you can't say. And he goes, no, you don't understand. He's okay with that. He's proud to be a fish nerd. So, yeah. And my wife, by the way, calls these clubs Fish Nerds of America. So I get it through and through. And I'm a person with a spouse that lets me play with fish. How's that?
That's basically all of us except for, I think, maybe Kathy Palina that's on here. But for the most part, we're all in the same boat. So,
yeah, well, I used to build aquariums for a living. And the longest aquarium I ever built was 40 feet. The tallest I ever built was 9'6". So most of my aquariums were 12 to 14 foot range. And when I met my wife, the only rule I had is she had to learn to dive. But we've gone to some interesting places to install aquariums. So she's benefited from diving, from working with the fish and things like that. But getting her to feed a fish tank when I'm traveling is a little much. You know, I call her up, "Do you feed the fish?" "Oh, I forgot." "Okay, I'll do it."
that's why I have Greg come over to my house, because my wife and they'll forget. Oh, I don't
Okay,
know.
well, Greg, if you can come to my house when I travel, I'll appreciate it.
It's called an auto feeder.
So, but yeah, so this is what we've thrown together, guys, and I've displayed this nowhere. You're the first to see it, and I hope I did it justice. Hope I did you justice. We
Absolutely, and we
have a lot
appreciate
of marketing
that.
materials and, you know, full manuals that go with it, and then little, just like anything else, quick reference guides that just tell how to do it, quick to do. But it is so easy. It is so easy. And before we started, people asked if I have one over the university, and the answer is no. Because once I turn a student onto the Aquaspin, they don't want to go back to any other way of testing. And I need them to learn what testing is, what standard deviation is. They have to learn how to make standards. They have to learn, you know, expiration dates and proper holding of equipment, whether it's titration or whether it's a dropper tip or whatever the case may be. So I'm very cautious not to make people use this the first time. But it's been fun. It's been a long ride to get here, and quite excited to have both freshwater and saltwater. About a year and a half ago, we didn't have magnesium on the spin disc. And our beta stores told us, in order for you to really put it out, don't put it out till you can do magnesium. We didn't know scientifically if we could do magnesium in the way we're doing it today. So there's a lot of first here. Remember to have the single bottle GH or single bottle KH, a single bottle nitrate kit. They came out of the Chalfant labs. They didn't exist before that. And it's hobbyists or I don't want to say people that don't know, but people that aren't into doing all the details. Why can't we have a single bottle kit? Well, that's chemistry. No. So the challenges are there. You guys, when we look at consumer insights and we go out, it's the challenges that gives us hope. It's the challenges that drive us. So I want to thank Fish Factory, Reef to Rift, Absolutely Fish, PV Pets for challenging us, for driving us to say, we would have released this a year ago and it wouldn't have had magnesium and it wouldn't be in that strong a test. So please keep pushing, keep driving, keep asking for those things, because it really is that type stuff that drives us. So.
Excellent. Ben Coleman, you have a question? Ben?
We go.
There?
Now I'm unmuted. Hey, so, okay, here's my question. What is the average price point that your beta stores are testing at right now? So,
Right.
in other words, yeah, so you get the idea.
I mean, what are they charging per test?
Yes.
So different stores handle it differently. Fish Factory, I think they're charging $5.99 for the test, and they turn around and give the receipt back to the consumer, the hobbyist, and tell them if you spend it in the store in the next 3 days, it's a credit. For his good customers, he's not charging, to be honest. For everybody else, I think he is. I'm not sure on that, and that's up to him. So it jumps around. I know that one of the stores is $1 per parameter, and that's what they were charging before this. Now, do they charge everybody? No, but I'd say on average about $4 to $5 per test is what most of the stores are now charging. And the thing is, if part of the problem for the independent stores is that people go in and test their water, get the answer, and then go buy elsewhere. So one of the things that they've looked at is to say, hey, we're willing to provide a service, but how do we make it worthwhile? So it really is all over the place. And that's really up to the store.
I still think even at $5, that's a deal and a half, because just buying the test kits themselves, you could be hundreds of dollars in. I think it's
but if you buy a test kit, you can do 800 tests with our Master Liquid Test Kit.
Yeah,
so,
well, even still.
On a per test basis, most people's tests expire before they use them all. And we put expiration dates and retailers hated us for it. For years, we didn't put expiration dates on our liquids because retailers balked and screamed and yelled, and eventually we said, no, it's not right. So every one of our test kits now has an expiration date. Now, pH probably doesn't need one, but ammonia, GH, KH, those expiration dates are real. You hit those expiration dates and shortly thereafter, they start to drop off. Now the test kits can freeze, they can hit high temperatures and all that, and we do all that. We have a stability chamber, we call it accelerated stability, that every one of our products goes through. We have a freezer, we have an oven, we have the accelerated stability chambers, 40 degrees Celsius, 75% humidity. 6 weeks in there is equivalent to 1 year on shelf. And then of course, for every batch of every product we make, whether it's stress coat or quick start or calcium or anything, including test kits, we have a retention sample of every single batch. It's a big room. So we know our expiration dates, but test kits, those expiration dates are real. So if you have test kits, ours or anybody's, look at the expiration date. And if you're past that, you're playing with yourself, because you're going to get inaccurate answers, and the cost of a test kit is so much less than one nice piece of euphilia. So, the corals and fish are worth a lot more than a single test kit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, some hobbyists don't want to fork up the money for a master test kit. And once they get their tanks established, they don't need to test as often. I give you that. But routine testing tells us if we have a problem. Routine testing tells me if my KH is dropping, my pH is going to follow shortly thereafter. And remember, when we look at KH, we think of it for coral growth. But it's that carbon source, that carbon hardness is important for the bacteria to grow. This is why I don't get so upset about trace amounts of phosphates. Every animal in your reef tank needs phosphates. Your bacteria need carbon, phosphate, and nitrogen to grow. I see 0 levels of phosphate. I see detrimental growth. I hit a little bit of phosphate in the tank, I can see tremendous growth. I think the 0 phosphate is a mistake. Now, I don't want to see phosphates at 2 parts per million. No, I don't want to see phosphates at 1.5 parts. No, but trace amount of phosphates are not a problem. So, but routine testing helps us tell that. And that's my opinion, guys. I don't have science to back that up. I've tried it. Now, for bacteria and for plants and things like that, yeah, carbon is essential. So, and for phosphates, if I have a tank or you have somebody with an aquarium they set up, and let's say they start the cycle, the ammonia goes quick and nitrite stalls. They just can't get past that nitrite. Put a little phosphoric acid in that tank, and you'll see the nitrobacter bacteria. You'll see the nitrifying bacteria surge, and you'll see that nitrites disappear. And it's because of lack of phosphate. All the nitrogen can be there, all the trace elements can be there, but you lack phosphate and you're going to stall out a nitrogen cycle. And I did my master's thesis on closed nitrification in biological systems. And one of the key components coming out of that was showing that lack of phosphate stalls that cycle. So anyway, I'm on my soapbox, guys. I got to stop. I'll keep going all night. And so.
No, sir. You keep on talking. We'll keep on listening.
Yeah, that's a problem for you, not me.
Hey, Kat, you have a question?
Hi there. Hey, Gary, thank you so much for the presentation. I was talking to Dan Denner, and I saw, you know, how the whole thing was working. I saw the results as the computer generated it live on the screen. So after that, I went to Absolutely Fish, and Glenn showed the machine to me. So I'm just so super excited for phase 2 when this is available for the hobbyists. So that was my first point. My second point was, I don't know if you saw the Reef Builders article that came out about this machine.
I did, yes.
Some questions in there about, are they using the API reagents? Because, you know, in the hobby, that's your first go-to for testing. And then you move on to other test kits. So there may be a little, well, are they using the API reagents? I'm not so sure about that. That maybe you could address to the hobbyists. I don't know what the answer is. Dan didn't either, but I figure if Lamont is making it, then the reagents could possibly be theirs.
Well, okay, let me answer that. So we shared all our formulas with Lamont. Again, we've had a close working relationship with Lamont. I've had a close working relationship with Lamont for 30 years. So Dr. Lydia, Carolyn, I mean, there's so many people down there that I've worked with and still work with extensively. So the methodologies are standard methods. I don't want to, you know, they're all modified. We have freeze drying involved. We have lyophilized beads. We have all kinds of special things in here so that we can, A, get a 2-year shelf life. Is it the exact same chemistry? No, of course not, because our chemistry is a liquid. This is a dry. Our salicylate methods are liquids. Salicylate is the method for the ammonia here. So the chemistry is chemistry. And Dr. John Ulrich, who works in our lab, organic chemist, head of chemistry at Rosemont, you know, has worked with this. He's the one that did the charts for the standard deviations and things of that sort that I showed you. So I'm not going to say, well, obviously it's proprietary as to what all the chemistry is throughout the disc and how the disc is developed. The discs are put together by robots. So again, human error is taken out. There's another eye in there to measure every one to make sure that the right things are in the right cells before it's sealed and so on and so forth. So yes, the chemistry is similar to API. Yes, some of our methodologies are in this disc, such as, you know, salicylate, bromothymol blue method for pH, or the wide range creosoles or whatever. So I don't know how to answer that without divulging certain proprietary information.
I understand.
But believe me, it's gone through years of testing. I've been working with this for several years now. And it's funny because the very first machine was a big black triangle shaped machine. Still spin. It didn't have as many photometric eyes, so now we're up to 6. And inside here, by the way, this is the disc I just ran. You really can't see the colors very well, but you can see inside where it's red as well. Everyone is sealed. It can't be, we can't soak this in the fish tank, but we can spill into it. But if we do, we do want to dry it up right away. So a lot's going into there. And yes, some of the chemistry is very similar to the API kits. Some are not. The calcium, magnesium, and carbon is unique in the fact that it's a colorimetric test, not a titration method.
Awesome, thank you.
And for those that haven't been to Absolutely Fish, and now that you're going virtual, I strongly advise you to see if you can get Absolutely Fish as one of your speakers. Because if you're virtual, it's easy for someone to be on board. And Patrick Dotson, the owner of Absolutely Fish, is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal speaker, phenomenal guy. I have great respect for him. He has an aquaculture facility. He has his own grow out cycle. He does his own clownfish, some frags and things of that sort. And phenomenal speaker to put on your list.
Thank you. So you'd mentioned a 2-year expiration on the disc. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Somebody had posted a question on this chat about recycling the plastic. Is there a program for that?
Not at this time. Not at this time. That is something we're looking at. Each individual disc is individually foiled and marked. As you open the disc, there's a moisture desiccant with the disc. And that's important to keep the chemistry correct and then to have all that into one disc. So it can be put into our regular trash stream without a problem, but I do not have a recycle program for it.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you so much. I do have an email that I sent to Dan. I wanted to send it to you if I could get your email later. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, contact Dan and we'll be able to get, or you guys can contact me through the website as well. And your board knows how to get a hold of me as well. So if I can do anything, I want you to bother Greg a whole lot and really irritate him with phone calls and questions and whatever, and he can send things to me. So, no, seriously, thank you guys for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here. I hope I met your needs and shared something with you, which is brand new. And first time publicly, we talked about it. So there's no script. I just talked.
Hey Gary,
you got time for one more question?
do you have a hard
absolutely.
stop? Because we've got folks with tons of questions. If you're willing,
that's totally fine. I can't see the question, so please go ahead.
I got you. Okay, so next up is Sabina Reefing here.
I'll go while he finds his unmute. So, can you hear me all right?
Yep, go ahead.
So, do you have like a store finder where I can click and put in my zip code and find out who has this test I can do? I mean, currently, if I have a tank crash, I'm desperately mailing something to Germany and waiting 3 weeks to find out why everything's dead. It'd be great to have something like this I can, go find right away.
So there is a store finder on the website today, but not for the Aquaspin. One of our people, Gwen Miller, is currently working on that, and it will be on there shortly. I don't know exactly when, but we are going to have that on there. So when you go to the store finder, it'll list the stores, and then it'll give a little mark as to those that have the Aquaspin and those that don't. Remember, it's brand new to the retail market. It's been out about, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 weeks. I don't know that we've been promoting it. So we were going to do it earlier, but obviously, like everything else in the world, COVID messed us up as well. So we've stayed open. We switched over to making sanitizer for a while, and we contacted our local congressman. So the Mars family said, make it, ship it, and give it away all for free. So we did hundreds and hundreds of gallons of sanitizer alongside everything else. But yeah, there will be a finder on the website, and it will be up very shortly, is what I'm told.
And one other question. You mentioned about how there's on several of the tests, I think KH was one of them, that once you hit that expiration, your quality is really degrading. Is that just for the colorimetric type, or is that also hold true for titration type tests?
Titration's even more important for that expiration dating. If you have a test kit without an expiration date, get away from it. Get a test kit with an expiration date on it. Calcium, carbon hardness, I mean, those chemistries are sensitive. And remember, even though they're in the bottle and you seal it tight, those bottles breathe, whether it's PET or HPD or whatever. Now, you know, some bottles breathe differently than others. When we first made Mellifix in the lab and put it in accelerated stability, we put it in an HPD bottle. That's a type of plastic. The botanical oils, the active oils went right through the plastic in a matter of 60 days. You can't feel it, you can't smell it, you can't see it. You can test for it. All plastics breathe, and glass bottles might be more secure, but if it's in a plastic bottle, it's breathing, and the chemistry is changing. Now, yes, low range pH. I had a kit one time that was 20 years old and still read true. High range pH, not so much. Ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, GH, KH, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, those things, the chemistry in them degrades over time. So the expiration dates are real.
Perfect. Thanks. Okay, let's come back to Sabina Reefing.
Hello, Gary. Can you hear me this time?
I can.
Okay. I had two quick questions. One, I was hoping I might be able to record this to put it on YouTube, and I didn't ask you, so I was asking you if that's okay.
That's fine. Go for it. Yeah.
And then two,
I have no idea what I said, but hopefully it was okay.
That's okay. We'll take out the curse words and all the bad stuff. I'm just kidding. I'm really excited about this. And have you guys got like any way to mail this stuff in too? Because like mail in water samples?
It wouldn't be hard for us to do, but the problem is anytime you mail a water sample, it degrades. I mean, this is the problem I'm having with people mailing samples in. Mail 3 samples somewhere and have the person test it. You're going to get variations. And it's because it's a living water, meaning there's bacteria in it. So depending on the amount of organics or what's in the water, you're getting degradation. So chemistry varies quite a bit in sampling of water from mail. Now, when I do, if we're going to draw blood out of fish, we're going to use heparinized needles, and we can stabilize that blood, put it in the freezer, and so on and so forth. We do it pretty quick. If you're going to do water, there's ways to preserve it, but they're not doing that. People are just taking water, putting it in a container, sealing it, and think they're mailing it off. Your pH is going to adjust. Your ammonia can build or degrade based on the bacteria. So I have a real issue with mailing water samples as a biologist, not, you know, and I could let Dr. John Ulrich, our organic chemist with us, answer that better. But we've had numerous people say, I sent samples into this one and their analyses are wrong because I got 3 different answers from the same water sample. And I'm like, it may not be their analysis, but the degradation of the water in the bottles you sent. Look, we have HPLC, we have high pressure liquid chromatography, we have gas chromatography, we have several spectrophotometers, $70,000 each pieces of equipment in our laboratory. And they're obviously they're only as good as the methods you use, but they're only as good as the sample you're getting. So I'm not real, obviously, again, you're hearing me, I'm not real big on mailing samples of water. So no, I don't have that set up.
Thank you for the advice. Thank you.
Okay, Greg, you have a question?
I do. So, Gary, when we're talking about the accuracy, we know it's consistent. We can see that. But where on that chart am I going to find the actual accuracy? So,
accuracy varies depending on levels and other parameters. Let me give an example. Mm-hmm. If you're testing water for nitrate with very, very low alkalinity, your accuracy goes down. If you're testing nitrate, this is any test. If you're testing accuracy of nitrate at proper levels of alkalinity, you're going to be a lot more accurate. As far as like what? Let me finish.
Plus or minus. Okay.
Okay. As far as pH, ammonia, nitrate, phosphate, you're going to be a lot more accurate with this than you are a liquid kit or a dip strip or most anything else. and with KH, calcium, magnesium, GH, you can be more accurate, more precise with titration. And I'll give an example. So if I look at, and I don't want to, if I look at magnesium kits, you may have an accuracy of 20 or about 20 plus or minus. With this, and I look at magnesium, I may have an accuracy of 10%, depending on the number. So say it's 1,000, your accuracy could be 60. Say it's, you know, and it does vary. So if we look at color charts as an example, and you say, what's the accuracy of the kit? The accuracy here is limited to the charts. Because this is actually measuring in greater precision, not accuracy, precision, you get finer points so you can have tighter accuracy. It's not a precise, simple number to give. If I look at ammonia and I'm going to have different accuracy from 0 to 1 than I am from 1 to 2, than I am from 2 to 4. As you go up, your accuracy is going to slide. Above greater than 2 parts per million on ammonia, my accuracy is going to be within 0.4. Below that, I'm going to be a lot more accurate. So you can see how for nitrate, I get above 100, my accuracy is going to slide quite a bit, almost 20%. I get below 100 parts per million or milligrams per liter, I'm going to be a lot more accurate. So it really, there's a lot of variables to that answer. And
so for me, you know, being an SPS keeper, you know, the big three are really the most important. And if magnesium could be as far as 10% off at the magnesium levels that I would want to keep it at, that's a big
if you want something really, really accurate, stay with titration.
Okay.
No question. I mean, titration is going to be more accurate than this. It may take you 30 minutes, 40 minutes to do your test. This will take you 2 minutes. So this will give you the right range to know whether you have to add more or not for the average person. If you want absolutely precision accuracy, stay with titration.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was the phosphate testing. I noticed it only goes down to 0.1, I believe.
No, it'll read lower. You'll get lower numbers, but it's noise, and that's of any kit. So I often challenge my students that want to get these ridiculous like 0.03, 0.0 something in phosphate, and I have them make standards and then run whatever test they want. And the type of tests that we work with in the industry just aren't going to do it.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to get an answer, and you're going to get consistency of answer. But when you're down at really ultra low phosphate levels, run your standards, and you'll find out how inaccurate the kits on the marketplace or the meters on the marketplace today are. And that's just a matter of the beast. You know, you can spend more and more money and buy yourself a portable spectrophotometer for a few $1,000s. But yeah, it just isn't possible with chemistry.
Gotcha.
So, and there are ways to do it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of our equipment in the lab can do it, but I'm not pulling. Just imagine going to my wife, hey, do you mind if I spend $30,000 and buy this machine for the house? I don't think she'd go along with it.
Right.
Although my old professor, when he retired, bought 2 microscopes for his retirement gift and spent 70 grand on his 2 microscopes. You don't think I'm jealous? So, well, and I have 3 microscopes here at the house that are personal scopes. And Yeah, there's more. I have more coin in than I do my car sitting out in the driveway. So yeah, we do have our preferences, but I use it for education. I use it for myself. I get to play. I'm sorry to say that I had 2 scopes I gave away last year. They're out in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania today, being used in a club and for the beekeepers. So the fish club and the beekeepers share a microscope. So my advice for you guys is line up with your local high school or college chemistry professors and biology professors and find out who your fish geeks are, and you'll get some nice equipment that way too. But if you're looking for extreme accuracy on KH, calcium, and magnesium, stay with your titration. I just can't get around that. I'm being honest with you. This will do it in 2 minutes. It'll certainly give you the right answer to make a judgment call for the tank. But if you're looking for the absolute accurate answer, the most accurate and more precision, stay with titration. And I don't care if it's Red Sea or Sarah or Salifert or API, titration is going to be a tighter number.
Got it. Well,
Thanks.
thank you. It looks like you got a couple more questions coming.
Let's go. Mark, you've got a question.
Yeah, it's a little bit off, but I'm asking you because you sound like you probably can answer it for me. I'm asking about accuracy rather than precision on salinity. So we have basically 3 tests that we'll use. We'll use a hydrometer, specific gravity. We'll use a refractometer or conductivity, none of which actually measure salt levels, but they give a prediction basically based on the readings they get. I'm pretty sure that the refractometer is the most precise, but which one's the most accurate?
Okay, so when it comes to measuring salinity, obviously we have lots of salts. We have sodium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, sulfate, etc. They're all salts. So it's a combination of what's in our water that we talk about salinity. It's hard to answer that question without looking at each individual piece of equipment. I like refractometers. I just like them. They can't read ultra low levels. For the reef tanks or for the fish tanks, well, obviously most of you guys are probably 32 to 35 parts per thousand. And in those ranges, it depends on the manufacturer's ability to keep that refractometer. Obviously, if it's temperature compensated or not, so on and so forth. So it's not an answerable question. Obviously, the floating arms are a problem. Conductivity, I'd throw out the window. I'd stay with the refractometer because so many things can affect conductivity besides salts. And that's part of the problem. And in this particular case for the Aquaspin, we looked at salts. So we know most tanks are 32 to 35 parts per thousand. This will be accurate as low as 25 or as high as 50. And you think, when's a tank going to get to 50 parts per thousand? Well, we've had occasions where customers have evaporation of water and keep adding salt water back in instead of DI or RO water.
Right.
You know, we have occasions where their automatic float gets stuck. And next thing you know, they don't realize it. So we've done the range here for the saltwater disc between 25 and 50 parts per thousand, really, really wide.
So one of my concerns is that my understanding is when you dissolve magnesium, it has a much higher refractive index than sodium chloride. So
Correct.
If you have very high magnesium, it's gonna basically count as much more than a little bit of salt.
Because it is more salt.
It is a salt, right? So
Yeah.
Okay. So here. So and is that a distinction without a difference? Meaning, do our organisms care if specifically like the fish? Do they care if it's magnesium or if it's sodium chloride or magnesium chloride? Do they care?
I can't answer that with science.
Okay.
I will say that I have saltwater fish farms going to ungodly levels of salinity, crazy levels of salinity. I have wholesalers taking their saltwater fish to ridiculously low levels of salinity, thinking they're helping controlling parasites. So do the organisms care? I use two words. One is survive and one is thrive. I don't want my fish to survive. I want them to thrive. And I do believe keeping them in the right levels at the right balance of those levels, meaning the right percentage of salts, is important. But I don't have any science. I haven't done any work to tell you which ones are right or wrong or what animals are in what. So I can't answer your question myself.
That is a great answer. I love that answer.
Thanks, Gary. Cody, did you change your mind about your question?
Cody, if you want to know if I'm good looking, of course
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
No, I did have a question. I guess it's in regards to it seems based on your presentation that this is more geared towards stores. Just I think based on the price that I see in chat, I don't know if you mentioned that in the video. You don't have to if you don't want. But I guess my question is more as production ramps up, is there any plan for the device to possibly cost less, just the device itself and the discs or the reagents, just so because I think at the price that I'm seeing, a couple of times a month I can see, but I think the initial cost might prevent hobbyists themselves from getting this. The test price themselves, I don't think is a huge issue, but I just feel like maybe the initial cost, I mean, there are going to be those of us, probably most of the 31 people that are on here would probably spend the amount of money to get something like this. But I think in general, I don't see that many. So I guess my question is one that you probably maybe can't answer, but I guess would it be ever a time where you would try to maybe minimize this device maybe to make it a little bit more entry level so that a majority of people could get it without, spending their life savings, I guess is what I mean.
I understand your question. I can't answer it because I don't know that answer.
Sure.
I don't want to say, I'll never say never because anything's possible. There's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, all the support material, all the computer upgrades, everything, all that's included for life, which is one of the things that is involved in this test over anything else. So,
no, I do realize there's a lot of R&D. There's a lot of costs that people don't realize. When people go online, they complain like, why does this cost this much or why does this cost that much? So I guess that's not really. I definitely know that a lot of research money goes into something like this, and it's great that a company actually would spend those types of resources to develop something like this, because it just, I think, helps the hobby as a whole.
One of the great things of working for Mars is that we're not a stock held company, we're a family held company, and a number of members of the family are really into fish, which makes it cool. So we get to play and do things that may not generate profits. Certainly the coral reef restoration work, that's all benevolence of the family. So yeah, there's a lot of money in there, and yes, Fishcare has to stand on its own 2 feet, just like every other, you think of Pedigree or Whiskas or Caesars or Greenies or Dentabone or any of our companies. They all have to stand on their own 2 feet, but we get to do things like this and put into R&D and put into development. I have a fish room which is unbelievable. And family members were in the fish room one time, number of years back, and they asked me a question, is this the best fish room it can be? And I said, well, it's a great fish room. I've had several key people in the industry here, and they've never seen a fish room in the industry like this. And I'm really proud of this fish room. And he looked at me and he goes, no, Gary, you're not answering my question. Is this the best fish room it can be? I said, it's a great fish room. No, shut up. We're Mars. Stop that. If you could do anything you want, would this be the fish room you have? Is this the best? I said, no. He goes, why not? I said, well, I'm living to my budget. He said, you don't have a budget. You're Mars. You send me what the fish room, I sent them a description, a layout of what the new fish room would be. By the way, I destroyed the R&D office. I actually took it out and made that part of the fish room. And I sent it off to them. And in 1 hour, I got an email back with a dollar figure, and it was ridiculous. And in 1 hour, I got an email back. When can it get done? So if we're at Waltham and we're working on new ways to test cortisol, if we're here working with the fish room, if I'm doing things on the Aquaspin, because the family wants to do the best thing possible for pets and the best thing possible for the environment, we get to play. But I do have to get that back. You know, we do have to be profitable. And with our profits, I get freedom to play like this. So yeah, there is R&D involved in this, but they're not trying to make it back overnight, believe me. So will it ever go down in price? Will it change for hobbyist pricing? I don't ever want to say never, but it is where it is today. So, and it is, the machine's $1,200. It is not a, you know, it is not a toy. It's a real piece of equipment.
So let us help you with those profits. How do we get a hold of one for $1,200?
Well, right now, again, we're so the sales team is set up for the retail stores, and we want to make sure we keep our distribution and things like that intact. I don't want to get too many out. The last thing I want to do is, you know, tell people, oh, I can't hit supply. But we want to make sure we can supply. And Sabina's pouring us wine, and I want some now, you know. Okay, do you mind getting me a glass? Yes, thank you. Yeah. We're not geared up just for the hobbyist, so it is being worked on.
Gary, we do have a business license.
You can talk to the sales team and just contact them, and they'll be able to give you all the guidelines.
I forgot to tell you that I run a fish store.
Great. You selling tilapia and fillets of flounder now, right? Is that what you're doing? No,
that's right.
I don't know if you realize.
Feel free to, you know, hit that apifishcare.com/contact, and anything in reference to this supply or pricing or things like that, they'll be able to get to you.
Awesome, thank you. Sabina, okay. Did you still have a question, or?
You're on mute.
He's shaking his head now.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Will this be replayed so I can see the whole thing?
I am recording that, and I will be posting it to Sabina Reefing on YouTube, and I will also be posting it to Reef to Reef and Reef Central, and I will send a link to Greg Carroll if he wants to send it to you. I'm not sure who said that, but
Moondoggy for
who is it?
Moondoggy, Jim Carson.
Oh, okay. I think I might have your emails from the SCMAS things. I will send you a link. It'll take me about a day and a half.
Can we have like a 7-second? Who is this guy? What does he do? I came in late, so I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, no sweat. You know what? Just pay attention to the forums. I'm sure we'll be posting a link, and people can watch this video. So just stay tuned, and you'll see it online.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, guys, I thank you very much, and you guys pulled all this together. I'm just here rattling in what I love, so it makes it easy. So I think I'm going to take Sabina's direction now and go get a nice glass of dry red. But
cheers.
Yeah, I know I speak on the behalf of everybody. Thank you so much, Gary, for your time. You know, I know I certainly enjoyed the talk. I'm sure we all did. And
yeah,
you know, thanks
sure.
again for taking time.
My pleasure. And as reefers and people that keep reefing, Mars, MARRS, coral restoration work. See some of the work we're doing. See what Mars stars are. It's a simple wrought iron device that we coat with epoxy and cover with crushed coral. And we literally zip tie frags to it. And all those Mars stars get tied together on the damaged reefs. And we've been able to reestablish reefs with the fish back for fishing in 18 to 24 months. It's just been years of work, but we really have it down. It's the cheapest way to restore a reef economically, sustainably, quickly. And that's all, again, through Mars Symbioscience and the work that Mars does for the environment. And it's kind of fun. So I've been up the Amazon for Mars Sustainability. I've been to the Indo-Pacific for Mars Sustainability. And no, you can't have my job. I get to talk fish and play fish all day. So I sell nothing, I make nothing, and I get paid for it. So it's working at API Fishcare, working for Mars is an absolute pleasure. So thank you guys, and keep on reefing.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you so
Gary.
much.
Bye now.
Bye.
Are we going to have one in the raffle?
All right, so it's raffle time, huh?
Yeah.
What are you putting in the raffle, Mark? Because, yeah, we didn't plan a raffle this time around. I think that is something we can definitely look into in future months, and a way to do it.
Okay, let's do a raffle. A master saltwater test kit and a master reef kit by API is in the raffle.
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Pick a name, pick a number, do what you got to do.
Okay, Phil, figure out how to
Greg,
make
you
money
just
from
send me
us.
the name and the address, and I'll mail it out.
Got it.
Very
Well,
generous of you, Gary.
do we have a copy of everybody who's here? So we can pick someone? We'll just pick a random number between 1 and 30, it looks like.
Well, we do have a recording of the
Okay.
meeting, so yeah.
So we'll do that. Okay, thank you, Gary. Thank you for donating that.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
And we'll get back to you on the name so that we can get that out to them.
You want 2 names, one for each prize, is that right?
Oh, I don't, whatever way you want to do it. One name
there
or
was-
2 names, I don't care.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they both, and both names cannot be Greg Carroll, just so you know.
Well, let me tell you something.
Sabina
Been to our
Reefing.
meetings, huh?
I am not the luckiest person. That's Cody. We all know.
You guys can't keep calling me that. I haven't won shit in years. Man. I don't even know why I'm part of this club anymore. I mean, other than Gary's great information and hearing Greg talk, you know.
So yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it.